Since the beginning of time, terrestrial forces have gracefully fashioned these wild landscapes that time cleverly forgot. It was probably around 1300 that the Polynesians, ancestors of today's Maoris, arrived aboard their pirogues to discover and establish themselves on these uninhabited islands that they would name Aotearoa, the land of long white clouds. It's been 20 years since my first voyage to New Zealand, and I wanted to revisit this land for the isolation, generosity, and sincerity of its people and its nature. On a nice bright Sunday, as boats ranging from the most ordinary to the most rudimentary adventure upon the waters of the bay, I decide to plant my feet on solid ground and walk across this vast metropolis. I discover architecture with no surprises, where the past no longer has its place and the present is looking for one. Man-made, largely urbanized with its 1.2 million inhabitants, every single ingredient is perfectly in place to make me want to flee this city that so resembles any other city. My desire for authenticity leads me to the home of Maori artist Gordon Toy, who, as a shaman does, relies on belief in gods and ancestral spirits to draw mokos. Mokos are not simple tattoos and can't be summed up by their beauty alone. They are veritable witnesses of a particular history and belonging.
Ka tohi atu koe, ki te tohi nuku, ki te tohi rangi, ka tīrai raka koe ki te piki kōtuku. Te rau o te toro te hui i a tītama. Pauhi ko paurārama. Hui te marama e, hui te ora e, tūturu whakamaua ki a tīna.
Tīna.
Hui e, tā ki e. Kia ora bai.
A whale's tail, when it flukes in the water, is on my back, so it's just a continuation of that kaupapa or that story. Mm-hmm. And at some point, then I'll get my legs done, and that will join with that.
There are many stories around the country that will tell you that our ancestors actually came here via the assistance of particular animals like birds, fish, whales, sharks. We still try and maintain to connect with not only who we are in the present, but who we were in the past. We also acknowledge the fact that the art form itself comes from the ground, it comes from under the earth, and it belongs not to us, but to them. That's important because that's like asking to clear the way so that it allows him to undergo the process of moko, and it readies him to accept the pain. I think that's really kind of sort of a piece that one, like the pieces that Awa is acquiring now are really something that a young person is, you know, what a young person is all about. And those are stepping stones towards getting the final stage, which is the face. Perhaps at some stage in his life that he might choose to do that, he may not. But it's definitely up to the individual. But a lot of the people that I do are generally in their 60s and over. They tend to take back their facial moko, in particular males. Sweet, bro. All good.
As I take leave of Gordon, I understand that remembrance is much more than an objective. It's a credo necessary to the Maori people, who make up only 14% of the population. A few hours' drive from Auckland, nature offers up its easy beauty to me. The Coromandel and its peninsula, the site of a gold rush in the 19th century that most recently attracts people hungry for space and freedom, a playground for Aucklanders, surfers, and dreamers of all sorts. These sheer coasts, lined with cliffs, provide shelter for beaches at the bottom of its coves, where contemplation is self-evident. And yet my eyes are drawn to a group of people carrying buckets on the beach. There are even some to rent. Could there still be gold miners? Two hours at low tide are enough to turn the beach into a playground for folks of all ages. Here the rules are simple. Use a shovel to dig a little basin and take advantage of the pockets of hot water at 60 degrees that surface from under the sand. Nothing like it for relaxing with the family after a bit of exertion. Transformed into Swiss cheese, the high tide will put this temporary frenzy back in order. Kiwi is not simply the nickname given to the people of New Zealand, nor of the fruit that comes from Asia, but above all to this bird with a name as strange as its metabolism, the apteryx. Closer to a mammal than a bird, with its highly developed sense of smell and even whiskers like a cat. I'll be learning more with Claire and her team.
So what Bridget does is monitors the male bird in the wild, because it's the male that incubates the eggs. And when he's sitting, she watches him and monitors him, makes sure that everything's going okay, and then goes in at around 50-55 days of incubation to lift the eggs. Now she has to go in at night when the male's off the nest.
In 1995, the discovery of an abandoned kiwi egg made the first incubation experiment at Rainbow Spring possible. Since that day, and thanks to this egg-gathering program, the kiwi's chances of survival are 70% versus 5% in nature.
So this guy here is only 7 days old. And the first thing I can see, you see the little probe holes? So he's been really busy over the night. Done a little poo there, that's all good. And he's been playing with the food, which is perfect, just what we want. Aren't you clever? You ate 40 grams last night.
With more and more knowledge and clear successes, evidenced in the hatching numbers, Rainbow Spring decided in 2004 to create the Kiwi Encounter, a tool for awareness and outreach. This program has aided to better understand the biology of this uncommon bird that is difficult to observe in the wild since it is nocturnal.
We give them an artificial diet at the moment of oxheart mince. If we started giving them insects straight away, they would never eat the artificial diet. And the issue is we have so many kiwi on site, we can't actually source enough live food for them. So sometimes the birds will take it straight away, and other times they just don't want to eat it. So then we just have to pop it into their bill and allow them to swallow. When I started, and it was 10 years ago now, we hatched 15 chicks, and it's grown since then, yeah. So it's really great. And it's very satisfying. I mean, it's exciting. There's things we've done that have never been done before. At the end of the day, when you sit down and think, well, that's another so many I've helped survive, that's why I do it. And it's long hours. You don't get paid particularly well, and you're often doing sort of 50 to 80 hours a week, but it is satisfying, so.
I leave Claire and her enthusiasm to get back on the road. The ground steams, the water boils, the earth rumbles. I have the impression that I'm wandering inside a giant bubbling pressure cooker. Yet humans here seem set on taming the forces of nature. The Maoris have long understood how to take advantage of these natural phenomena in their daily life. The name Smoking Island to designate the North Island is far from being outdated. Everywhere you look among the trees, gas rises and smoke surges forth as if from the nostrils of a dragon. Rivulets of smoking water snake about, leading streaks of colored mineral crystals. Standing within these landscapes, I feel as if I were witnessing a world in formation. I enter the village of Aotearoa with its sulfur smell and its geothermic phenomena, but more importantly, I am entering the heart of the Maori culture, omnipresent in this volcanic region.
We're at a place called Te Whakarewarewa o Te Ope Taua Wāhiao. That's actually the name of this valley that you see in front of us. Pōhutu in English means a big splash. Pōhutu is also an ancestress. For Māori women especially, we find that this is very, very therapeutic. They say that You can use the water for healing purposes, like if you have skin abrasions, it's very good for cleaning that up. But if you're finding it really difficult to conceive, they say to drink the waters.
Is it really work?
Yes, he's 3 this year. Our baby is 3 years. I drank that water. But his eyes are really blue and he has blondie hair. Very unusual. Same father, same mummy. So I think maybe the water does have something to do with it. Maybe it gave me hope more than anything. In many a story, they cover, I think, 2 deities called Te Pupu and Te Huata. They're in earlier times when the Aotearoa canoe arrived here. The navigator of the canoe was Ngā Toroirangi. His job was to come inland through this area here, right as far as he could to claim the land for the Aotearoa people. Unfortunately up there it was snowing and his expedition party pretty much got covered in with the snow, a snow blizzard. So he called to his sisters to send help. They created these 2 small deities. Now their Pupu and Huata are both geothermal goddesses of steam and water. They then travelled here, they found Ngā Toroirangi and they revived him.
The 2 goddesses leave many geysers, mud baths, and hot water springs in their wake. These are considered gifts.
The name of this pool is Ngārara Tuatara. It's a cooking pool. It's about 98 degrees hot. We cook them in baskets such as these, made from the flax plant.
I allow my high-flying spirit to wander about in this billowing mist. Early in the morning on the far southern shore of Lake Taupo, gently enshrouded in these faraway blue hues, the freshness of the waterfalls I pass remind me that at the end of a river there's always a fisherman. When I arrive at Tarongi, the self-proclaimed trout fishing capital of the world, I wanted to see what color the fish were, brown or rainbow-colored. Suspended between 2 banks overlooking the Tongariri River, I joined Ross and his companion in the hope of catching some fish.
I came here as a schoolboy, late 1950s. So I've probably been fishing here all of 50 years. This bridge wasn't here then. We used to come across on a flying fox and to the other side of the river on a wire. And this river's much the same now as it was then. It's just beautiful. A bit less water now. They've pinched some for the power project, but nevertheless the trout still love it. They are born in the river. They spend 3 years in Lake Taupo where they grow, feeding on smelt, like little whitebait, and they come back up the river to spawn. The casting, we're going from 2 o'clock to 10 o'clock. When people are learning, we often put a book under their arm, and therefore they get used to using the rod, not their arm. With Kiwis, we put a bottle of beer under their arm. With Frenchmen, it would be a bottle of wine. Then they'll never drop it.
Often released after being caught, thus encouraging an abundance of big fish in these waters, it's clear why fishing is considered a national sport here, as regulamentary size is 40 centimeters minimum for a weight of 1.5 kilos. Trout weighing 3 or even 5 kilos are not uncommon.
This is Mother Nature at its best. We're at peace with the world here. The only thing I'm worried about is whether that fish is going to wait for me. And I'm having a look right now to make sure he's still there, and he has gone, I think. But come down here for half an hour's fishing, And suddenly you go home and you find you're late for dinner again, and 3 hours has gone past. Wonderful way to spend the rest of my life. Fly fishing to me is just the best form of recreation, and I'm just so lucky to make it my living in a place like this. It's very small.
Disappointed by his catch, but certainly not by the day, Ross reminds me humorously of an old saying, 10 fishermen, 10 hunters, 20 liars. I take up my journey even further south. The prevailing westerly winds loaded with rain coming off the Tasman Sea greet me at the gates of the Tongariro National Park. Situated in the center of the North Island, this park, established in 1887, was the first in New Zealand. The land was donated to the Crown of England by Maori chef Te Huhu to avoid the exploitation of these sacred lands by European immigrants. This donation was made in exchange for turning it into a national park and respecting the site. Situated on 3 active volcanoes, Tongariro, Ngarahoe, Ruaparu, in addition to being Peter Jackson's playground for his Rings trilogy, of this park just a few lines and a ribbon of cloud encroaching on the summit stay with me. Continuing my journey in the Manawatu province, I crossed the town of Palmerston North, a small college town that vacation has emptied of its students. A lifeless ghost town, and yet starting at 6 to 12 years old, they try the haka, the Maori warrior dance borrowed by the famous All Blacks team. It's my first time, and these little ones give me goosebumps. Kiatoa, Be Strong, is the name of the club Bruce, a former All Black, has managed for the past few years.
I would say it's a capital. It's got a pretty proud history of rugby here. There's a rugby institute that's based in Palmerston North, where the All Blacks have trained in the past, and I think it's just got a proud history. I played for a long time, and I thought it was time to give something back. The first part is that they enjoy, being involved, enjoy playing the game, want to play. Nothing's forced upon them, and it's just learning to play a team sport. And then we build the skills around that, skills, catching, passing skills, basic skills, and gradually build self-confidence, then build decision-making, players being able to make decisions, good decisions. So it's just a gradual process, and it starts this age group in particular.
2 hands! Go forward, 2 hands! Go, 2 hands, run! Pass! Down! Go! Why did you make that choice to be a coach? Wait. I'm not sure why. Because I got too old to play. Are you ready? Yeah! Go. Follow the ball. Let's go. Our young people that we have in our club, they come from probably the lower socio-economic part of town, and being able to provide the togetherness and the family atmosphere is more important. The pro-social role modelling that we give to them, and the positive reinforcement we try and implement during the coaching probably sits out amongst everything that we try to achieve with them. And the fact that they turn out to be good rugby players is a bonus in our club. Which team do you think they win for the World Cup?
As I leave the field, I learn that the black worn by the All Blacks symbolizes their mourning the defeat of their adversaries. Due to its natural isolation, New Zealand seems like a runt in the wine-growing universe. Benefiting from the current vigorous revival, the Martinborough area has succeeded in assembling original wines thanks to a coastal climate and the youth of its soil. The wine that has best profited from these advantages is the White Sauvignon, fruity and with character, a bit like the Kiwis themselves.
These ones here, these Chardonnay, so this is one of 4 varieties we do have here. We have Pinot Noir, Riesling and also Sauvignon Blanc. We've just finished doing leaf plucking, where we actually expose the fruit, take the leaf off around the fruit, make sure there's no leaf sitting on top of the fruit, getting them nice and exposed to the sunlight, making sure that we can actually get air moving around the fruit.
The quality of these vineyards lies in the reduced size of operations and the careful attention paid to the grapes harvest, always done by hand and making the selection of grapes more precise.
We've decided that we'll put a wind machine into this block here. We've also put another one into another block as well. The early part of spring, it's there for frost control, and it goes around 360 degrees, and it's just like a big fan. It just blows air around the vineyard, warm air. It pulls down the warm air and blows it around the vineyard and covers between 6 to 8 hectares. I've been in the industry for the last 21 years and I have really enjoyed it, and I still do enjoy it. And I've always said the day I stop learning about this game is the day I walk out the gate. But at the moment, no, I've got no intention of retiring from the game at this stage.
In the last kilometers of my journey, I arrive in Wellington. Geographically landlocked with the sea on one side and the Rumutaka Mountains on the other, the town grew around its natural port. Here in Civic Square, like a hyphen between the business area and the artsy neighborhood, the town reveals itself to me. A genuine strategic link between the two islands, Wellington has become the southernmost administrative and political capital on the planet. Situated in the latitude of the roaring 40s and often violently windswept, the Kiwis have given this town the nickname of the Windy City. The wind encourages me to cross the capricious Cook Strait for a visit to the South Island. "30 kilometers to the south of Picton, a bit of relaxation on the Blenheim Terraces, in a town that hails itself the sunniest city in New Zealand. Today is the 6th of February, a national holiday celebrating the Treaty of Waitangi, which was signed between the British government and Maori tribal chiefs in 1840. On Waitangi Day, the Maoris opened the doors of the marae to pakahas, in other words, to non-Maoris. Omaka Marae, a vital part of the everyday life for Maoris, their cultural gathering place. It is even said that in entering, a Maori enters into the protective heart of one's ancestors. Folklore or tradition?
We are at Omaka Marae. This is our wharenui. Wharenui means a big house. So this is the meeting place of my tribal people. This is where we come to celebrate our culture. This is where we come and have our tribal discussions. This building is a very important part of our cultural identity. If we look at the carving at the top of the house, we believe that that is the head. If we come down to the two side carvings down here, we believe that those are the hands of the ancestor. Down here are the legs of the ancestor. So the ancestor is standing here and it is welcoming people. So if you could picture that this big long painting here is the backbone of the ancestor. These rafters, these paintings coming down the side, they are the ribs of the ancestor. These ribs here, they all have a different meaning and they tell about different stories related to my tribe. These paintings come down to the different carvings and down to the different woven panels. So we'll go over and we'll have a look at some of these. These things here, these are woven panels. Again, they're storyboards and they talk about different stories relating to my people. This one here talks about a dolphin who was a guardian of my people. I wear him my moko on my Maori tattoo that I have. This talks about connection that I have with the dolphin and the connection that the dolphin has with me in a spiritual sense and in a physical sense. Now this part of the wall is a very special part for us. The photos here, they are a contemporary version of these carvings. The carvings are a way that we remember our old ancestors, and the photos are a way that we remember people who have passed on in recent years. As a young Maori leader, it's really important for me to hold on our traditions and our customs. A lot of the work that I do within the community is about bringing our young children up so that they become proud about their Maori heritage, that they hold on to it, that they become passionate about it.
A communication tool for Maori culture throughout both islands, the marae is part of the renaissance of the Maori identity. The South Island seems less populated and thus wilder to me. It's also more exuberant in the vegetation of its old-growth forest, clinging to a mountainside and sprinkled with arborescent ferns. After walking for several hours without crossing the path of another living soul, I turn a corner and discover an inn erected right there in the middle of nowhere. When I pushed open the door, I would never have imagined that I'd be discussing the outskirts of Hong Kong.
I was born and bred in Hong Kong, so I thought I was a city person. But when I came to New Zealand, come to the Open River, lived here for 12 years, and we found ourselves, I found myself, so actually I might be a rural person. But when I was in Hong Kong, we don't have choices. So we live in a high-rise building, and we don't see rivers and trees like New Zealand. But once we come down here, we're happy, we enjoy the environment.
Though Kim's journey ended here, mine continues on to the last, loneliest, loveliest, exquisite apart, according to Kipling, the West Coast. Cape Foulwind was the name given by Captain Cook. In 1776, violent winds forced him to keep his ship at a distance from this coastline. Long before his arrival, the Maoris called this bay near the Cape Tauranga, which means a place alongside the pirogues. They came here to hunt sea lions to feed themselves. Nowadays, a small colony of these highly protected animals remains. Dan Neal studies and watches over them.
The colony's around, there's several hundred animals. There's about 300 pups born here every year. And yeah, we monitor the number of pups that are born each year here. And we've been doing it for the last 20 years to see what sort of trend is happening here, whether the numbers of fur seal pups are increasing, decreasing, or staying the same. Here on the west coast, there's 3 colonies we're monitoring, and all 3 colonies, the number of pups born on each of those 3 colonies has decreased every year, well, most years anyway. We're not entirely sure why that is, but it's possibly to do with El Nino weather patterns, but also there are quite a few seals caught in the hoki fishery off here. Some fishermen claim that the fur seals eat all the fish, but the work that the department's done, the Department of Conservation has done, shows that certainly the seals eat fish, but mostly they're just small lanternfish, fish about that size, and generally not the species that the fishermen are after. The fur seal population certainly overall doesn't seem to be declining, it's probably increasing, and that brings its challenges in itself, I suppose. It is one of the largest native animals in the country, and it's certainly one of the largest protected native animals.
The coast, blasted by the turbulent Tasman Sea, frames the immensity of these mountains nicknamed the Alps of the South. For most Kiwis, the western flank of the island is simply called the coast, a virgin and generous territory. The spectacle begins at high tide when water sleeps into the bellows, freeing great plumes of foam with the force of its incessant rhythmic waves. Strangely reminiscent of a stack of crepes or a petrified layer cake, the pancake rocks of Punakaki are a series of superimposed rocky layers. It wasn't a pastry chef's handiwork, but erosion by waves and wind that over time have created this jumble of sediments. Certain rivers on the western coast ferry fragments of green stone that erosion has torn from the mountain, jade. Called punamu here, this stone has always been an integral part of Maori culture. Civilizations throughout time have appreciated jade. Few semi-precious stones are as replete with legends and magical traditions. I begin my quest at the Aotearoa River, renowned for the quality of its jade and the richness of its mineral deposits. Jeffrey Myrika, a sculptor, offers to initiate me to the secrets of this stone.
I'm looking for some water to drink. You haven't seen any, have you?
Yeah, I think there's a lot there.
I'm walking in the footsteps of my ancestors today, mate, looking for our treasured ponamu. Ponamu has an outer rind that can be white to brown, so it camouflages itself to the untrained eye. Very, very hard to distinguish from any other stone, unless, of course, you know what you're looking for. Best time really is on a rainy day, when the riverbed is wet, because then it'll be green. was highly prized because of its toughness, and the toughness was the holding edge. So tools were fashioned from it. I like to stick to tradition, and I pretty much fashion it into tools. But I also carve ponamu, but I only like to carve the design that I see in the stone. So I let that design free. Beautiful. This piece here has come from a reef up on the, right up the, about 4 miles from here. It's snapped off, as you can see, how it's all very flaky, and it's rolled down the riverbed and of course into the hands of me. To us, the Maori people, the belief is that it is capable of changing our lives, just like this tiki here. It's a symbol of attachment, it's a symbol of new life, it's a symbol of new beginnings. Now, if that's able to change your thoughts, this will happen. I was on a ponamu hunt one day and walking for hours and hours, and I was feeling pretty tired. And then all of a sudden I just come to the spot where I basically just stopped, and through the energy that I've used up all day, I sort of put my hands on my hips and I looked up to the sky and then took a deep breath. Like this, and then I just let it out, and as I let it out I looked down, and between my feet was this piece here. A ceremonial ad was made from the highest quality ponamu, and only good can come from that.
They call it nefrit, jade, or punamu. The green stone must absolutely be offered as a present so that it preserves its virtues. It's within the light of these greens that I discover the subject and come to better understand the magic it bestows on one who contemplates it. I enter the town of Franz Joseph, named for its glacier. A veritable paradise for hikers or an Eden for excursions, here one must set foot upon the summit. On foot, by plane, or in a helicopter, the glacier allows itself to be scaled. Pushed by desire and lack of time, I take to the air to view this spectacle. Privileged to so quickly reach the heights of the country's most beautiful mountain, its chain of summits is called the Southern Alps. Moving up along this icy tongue, striated with 1,000 crevasses, I can't help but think about one of the most famous Kiwis, Sir Edmund Hillary, who made it his playground before his victory over Everest. Baptized Aotearoa, the cloud piercer by the Maoris, and often draped with a mantle of clouds, today Mount Cook reveals itself to me completely unfettered. These glaciers enthrall and remind me of their Argentine cousin, born in a perpetually snow-covered region and ending their path in a rainforest at the edge of the sea. Not having accomplished my dream in Argentina of frolicking in that eternal snow, it's at the foot of Mount Cook that I'll take my first steps. I come down from my little clouds to take to the road again. crossing torrents of water from melted snow, I'm reminded that everything is in motion between the earth and the glacier. Even though 85% of Kiwis live in cities, agriculture remains New Zealand's economic foundation. Large-scale sheep breeding is still its trump card. In the Otago region, known for its large breeding farms, I hope I'll get the chance to discover a yearly activity taking place right now, the shearing of the sheep. Have I come to the right address?
Just bringing these wee handful of lambs in to go to the market. I was just trying to get them in with the dogs, and the dog that you can see out there that's black and white, that's a heading dog that doesn't bark at the sheep, he just rounds them up. And these other two that are beside me, we call them hunterways because they bark at the stock, and it's the noise that gathers them up. You train them when they're from 8 weeks old as pups, just to sit, just a wee sit command, and then as they grow from there, you just or is with this whistle. Yellow. Will I go, Buzz? Will I go? Will I go? And it's just the command to make them bark, which scares the stock to gather up, and then it makes it easier to get them to the market and so forth. It's like a short long or long short, so it's the length of the whistle, like as the sit one. And then if you're making them like take say for instance a right side, it's a like, get up here, will I go, Luke? Will I go, Buzz? Will I go, Buzz? It's quite hard work sometimes, but you got the open air and just the environment really that we live in. We take it for granted, like we haven't got 4 concrete walls around us like that, the majority of people do. We just take it for granted.
Thanks to Andrew's kindness, availability, and grace, I finally have the address of a sheep shearer. An appointment is set for tomorrow morning. In the meantime, it's off to the banks of Lake Wanaka, a veritable vestige of geological times that I allow to divert my attention. Though meeting passers-by is less frequent closer to the fjordlands, I meet a German couple, Madeline and Sasha.
The main reason is that we get this work and travel visa, so we can work and travel at the same time. It's just perfect. And New Zealand, it's just beautiful, like everywhere.
The main thing was because of the money for the accommodation. Sometimes you can sleep in, and of course the main reason is that we are free, that we don't need a ticket for bus, and we can stay here, for example. It's not possible to come with public transport to here. And we are just free.
After a wonderful evening of conversation, I leave my German cousins their independence. I also abandon the shores of Lake Wanaka and, with Andrew's instructions, go to meet a man who, when the time is right, knows how to fleece a sheep.
When they shear the sheep, the wool, there's some good parts of wool and bad parts, well, not as good, so they keep the clean parts go for apparel, and the other parts get used for things that, like insulation or something like that. That doesn't matter what colour they are. The lambs will only have about 1.5 kilos of wool. A big ewe would have, 5 or 6 kilos. Yeah, but these are only lambs we're doing here.
Paid by the head for each animal and working in different countries like Australia, France, and even Argentina, sheep shearers take care on average of 300 sheep a day, but they can do as many as 400 if someone throws down a dare.
Well, to choose a good shearer, you want someone that's reliable and hard-working, and it takes a few years to learn how to shear. So, you just can't get up there and start shearing. You've got to learn to do it. And even though it looks easy, it's not that easy.
1,000 miles from sheep shearing, Queenstown, the capital of extreme sports, offers travelers an exceptional setting. A multitude of activities, one wackier than the next, are available to 21st century pseudo-adventurers. Today, jet skis in the canyons, paragliding over the city, and kite surfing mingle with traditional made-in-New Zealand bungee cord jumping. For the fearless, there's the roller sled, which is much too extreme for my taste. Not particularly in need of an adrenaline rush, I leave Queenstown to its madness for my last stop, one sure to bring real thrills, the Fiordlands and their otherworldly landscapes. Only 40 more kilometers to go until I complete my quest to the end of the earth. These last 40 kilometers will be traveled with the ocean beneath my feet. I'm on Doubtful Sound. Here, fjords fashioned by ice descend more than 400 meters.
Manapuri Base, Manapuri Base navigator, any copy of it? Oh, we're getting you good there, Kaz. Yeah, getting you good. How's things over there today? Yeah, how long have you got, mate? I mean, my story's a fairly long one, but I started off as a fisherman and started in a little island called Chatham Islands, which is 500 miles to the east of the country. But after a few years there, I came out and sat my ticket. But as you get a little bit older, thought we'd come over here and take up something that's a little bit more easier on the body. So anyway, here we are on the Navigator today, plying these waters and the sounds.
The captain hesitates to enter Doubtful Sound, given the narrow opening and the lack of wind to navigate with. He names it Doubtful.
With the weather the way it is, it makes our job really, really easy. But when it's terrible weather, it blows, can be up to 70, 80 knots sometimes, and that makes it fairly difficult. We have to stay to the centre of the fjord to keep control of the boat and all that sort of thing. It's not as though you're out on the coast or anything like that, so we are protected by the lovely mountains around here, so it does offer that safety.
Today, Fiordland is the largest of New Zealand's 14 parks. It stands as a witness to the evolution of our planet and was even given the status of a World Heritage Site for its exceptional beauty and its natural attributes. In the land of long white clouds, a marvelous cortege of bottlenose dolphins guides and accompanies me to the end of my journey, the Tasman Sea.